Welcome back, everybody, to the Southern Gateway Chorus live stream. My name is Zach Coleman, and with me,
And my name is Joe Hunter, and we are here as co-hosts of the live stream.
we've got a pretty fun show for you today. We brought in a fun guest. I'm excited about it. He's worked with Gateway for a long time. He's done a whole lot of stuff. Joe, tell him who it is.
Yes, George Gipp, better known as either the Gipper or Gipp. Georgie is a friend for years. We became friends meeting in our various quartets as much younger people. And George sang baritone with the Cincinnati Kids, has had a long and storied career as a coach,
Sure.
performer. I can't even enumerate all the other quartets. I know Chicago Court of Trade and other quartets, but also as a chorus director, but as a presentation then performance judge, and again very notable coach. Extremely notably recently as the primary guru and father confessor for our reigning champion quartet Signature.
Sure.
But more than anything, just from my standpoint, a tremendous friend, someone who gets it, and someone who I always found as the kind of guy you'd like to hang out with and talk for a while. And that's, I think, kind of the genesis of what we're trying to accomplish here with this whole format, is to have those kind of discussions.
Exactly.
So I couldn't be happier when I talked to George earlier this week, and he said, "Yeah, I'll be glad to do it." So.
Well, George, it's great to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, I'm sure I missed a lot there, George, but that's.
Well, greetings from really today sunny and steamy North Florida. It's not still 93 degrees here. And, in the words of the incomparable Robin Williams in the Disney classic of Aladdin, yeah, Joe, we have history, we have geography. And, the other thing is we have longevity as sojourners of the stage. But the most important thing, we are friends for life. We're brothers from another mother. And it's my privilege and honor to be with the Southern Gateway Chorus, the Roots, and Zach and yourself.
Well, so yeah, before we go too far into that, let's go ahead and do some show stuff real quick. So everybody watching at home, we have George here. We are live, of course. If you put any kind of question in the chat that you have for George Gipp, we will get that read off. We are completely here to, well, he's here to answer your questions. I'm not here to answer your questions. I don't know his answers. But before we get too far into stuff, George, just real quick, for those out there who don't know who George Gipp is, can I get the 1 minute, timeline of start to finish, the big points? What do you got?
Yeah, so I grew up in Chicago, Illinois. Don't hold that against me, okay? But a primary goal in life, I woke up one day knowing that Southern Gateway was the returning champions after their victory in 1973. And my buddy said, "Hey, you want to move to Cincinnati?" And I said, "Yeah." I called Ron Rigler and I said, "My name is George Gipp, and I want to sing in the front row of the Southern Gateway Chorus." And he laughed. And he said, "Well, when you get here, give Don Gray a call, and he'll bring you to rehearsal." I came there and spent from 1976 through 1985, 86, the greatest years of my life. Southern Gateway taught me how to be a man. They taught me, hey, look, what, you think you're something special? Go pick up the risers, put the risers away. I learned how to do and be there would be no Cincinnati Kids, there'd be no George Gipp without Don Gray and the Roaring Twenties.
Oh, yeah.
The friendships that were made catapulted me that when I returned to Chicago, I was able to really be a viable person to ask my wife, Kathy, who's a Sweet Adeline two-time medalist, to marry me. We've been married for 32 years.
Wow.
I don't know how she put up with me for that amount.
You want to know how old I am, Joe?
It probably only feels like 31 and a half, right?
Exactly right. But throughout that time, it has been, if I had a musical question, I called J.G. Lombardo, but I first called Don Gray. And Don, I can't speak enough about what he has done, teaching us how to the craft and what to do. Bob Muka taught us how to be a man, taught us how to own up, what needs to be done. And Tom Jones, God rest his soul. I mean, unbelievable. So I've been, as Joe said, a presentation judge, and then migrated into the new category, the performance, which we're so excited about. I've gotten to go around the world because of this hobby. I've gotten to be something I never thought I could be. The only thing I wanted was respect for my peers, and I got that and so much more. Friends, lifelong friends. I've coached 4 international champion quartets, and I've contributed to many chorus successes. But that's because of what I learned at the Southern Gateway Chorus. And my one dearest friend in the world, Joe Conley. I mean, we go all the way back. And everything that comes around. The Jeff Oxleys, I didn't never met these guys, and they're my best friend. So that's the 2-minute George Gipp story, which is I owe everything to the phone call I made with Ron Rigler. And when he laughed me off, and when I finally got there, he didn't let me sing in the front row. He put me in the 4th row middle.
Great.
And he had earned it. That's a little bit about me.
Real quick, take another quick minute. Just talk about some of the quartetting that you've done in your lifetime. I know Joe kind of, wow, Joe and George, this is going to be hard for me. Joe kind of touched on that a little bit, but go ahead and solidify that. What are some of the big quartets that you've been a part of?
Yeah, well, the Cincinnati Kids, and we were really homegrown. So when we first came in, we were 6th place in the district. We finished 6 first, and then we got to go to international and get beat by 4 under par and Joe Hunter. But the Cincinnati Kids wound up 4 times in the top 10 with 2 international medals, and that earned me the right to get an audition when I moved back to Chicago with A.G. Lombardo in the Chicago Court of Trade. That also solidified a relationship for the entire run of the Northbrook New Tradition. Probably one of the greatest accomplishments ever of 8 consecutive silver medals. I was one of the primary performance coach, presentation coach throughout that entire run. And the other quartets that I've sung in, it's been a lot of fun. I was the first baritone here in Florida with the Wise Guys, and they got good when they threw me out. That was after the Court of Trade and after the Cincinnati. And that's truth. You can ask Mark Schenkert; he'll be happy.
Yeah, he'd probably say that. He would say that.
He would say it gladly, and he's a friend and dear friend. But other quartets, it just basically chapter quartets to support the chapters. Those were my 2 quartets, and they were lifelong friends and lifelong commitment.
I mean, the way I will say this, Zach, with the way George describes the Cincinnati Kids doesn't do it justice. I mean,
sure.
Some quartets transcend contest placement.
Yes.
And the Cincinnati Kids were one of those. They were one of those influential, impactful kind of groups that you would cross the street to see.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. They had those kind of personalities, and they had that kind of energy. You could tell even anybody who didn't know George, you can see he's such a shy, retiring kind of person. And very low energy.
Yeah, definitely. That's why Steve Thacker in our chat section called him Mr. Pow, because he's so low in energy.
Well, can I tell you that Mr. Pow, which has been a trademark? I'm going to give Steve his due right here.
Oh.
What do we preserve, right? That means we steal things. I heard Steve say that one time. I stole it completely. He owns that trademark. Okay, I give you credit, Steve. But the true genius behind our quartet was the energy. We call him the gift because that's what Don Claus called him, and that's Scott Brannon. There's plenty of great lead singers. There's only one Scott Brannon. And Randy Graham, when we met Don Claus to take us to the next level, okay, Don Claus had us sing a few up tunes. He goes, sing a ballad. We go, we don't do ballads. And he goes, that's your problem. And after we were done with that, he goes, Cincinnati Kids, one of the nicest guys I ever met. That was Randy. That's the truth. Between Steve, Scott, and I, we could clear a room pretty quick.
I love it. Well, on that topic, let's go ahead and break into this real quick. We do have a clip of the Cincinnati Kids. For those of you who are not familiar, let's just go ahead and catch you up.
Cool.
touch you? When will this strong yearning end? And when will I hold you again? Time in New England took me away to long rocky beaches and you by the bay. We started a story whose end must now wait. And tell me, when will our eyes meet? When can I touch you? When will this strong yearning end? And when will I hold you again? I feel the change coming. I feel the wind blow. I feel brave and daring. I feel my blood flow. With you I can bring out all the love that I had. With you there's a heaven so ordained, so bad. And tell me, when will our eyes meet? When can I touch you? When will this strong yearning and when will I hold you again? Will I touch you and hold you?
And that was Weekend in New England by the Cincinnati Kids. I absolutely love that song. Joe, give us some trivia.
Yeah, we're just saying, in fact, and this goes with an ongoing theme we've had here for the last couple of months, arranged by Don Gray. You know, he's been so important to so many groups, you know, and so giving with what he did, and also wonderful. That's a wonderful arrangement, and it really showed that quartet. It showed the kids off really well. You know, so yeah, it's yet another Don Gray arrangement, and I think we're going to be talking about that towards the end of this, at the end of the stream also, Zach. Well, there'll be another Don Gray moment, not to give anything away.
Sure.
But so yeah, with all that being said, I was also saying, we're just saying that to George, and this is when we get to, this is the geezer part of our discussion here, where we get to go, God, you guys were young, impossibly young in those pictures. And, you know, it's almost like we could ask the audience out there, which one is George?
Right. And nobody would know. Very few people would know.
But, you know, but it really does take me back to when we met, you know, and George just alluded to that. And there's some interesting stories about that. And that was one of the reasons also that I thought it might be kind of cool to have George on the stream tonight, is because it really goes to the point I was making earlier about, you know, the kind of groups that you wanted to hang out with, the kind of groups who get it, the kind of groups that, you know, were special in their time. And, you know, not just your father's barbershop quartet, right? We really met in the street in Minneapolis. And it was at an international convention. And it was really kind of before, like Foreign to Par had not competed anywhere, but we went out to that convention to just kind of walk around with, you know, stars in our eyes and say, oh, look, this is what a convention is. Mm-hmm. And the Cincinnati Kids were there. George, I'm trying to remember, did you guys compete that year? I think you did compete.
No, we were actually we were the alternates coming out.
You were the alternates, so you were out there.
We were there with the Southern Gateway in our perennial.
Oh, there you go. But meanwhile, and talk about that, you know, the influential quartets that people will go across the street to see. The guy who recognized that there was something a little bit special about the kids, and something a little bit weird and special about Four Under Par is from a quartet that was the quintessential quartet like that, the 139th Street Quartet and Peter Neuschel. And Pete was the one who introduced us to each other at like 3 a.m. on some street corner, on a Saturday night in Minneapolis, and said, you guys really should get to know each other. He said, because you guys are both going to be well known in this hobby. And, and we ended up singing songs to each other for about an hour, as I recall, George.
Yes. And, if I can interject, the introduction formal salutation was crazy, meet crazy. And, that was our quartet. Four Under Par, Cincinnati Kids, we had a way of taking wild things and making them seem normal for digesting. And yet we loved doing the unexpected. And
right.
I believe we both, as quartets, we went back into that little Rathskeller at the end of the night, and 139th Street ended the night. It's a lovely way to spend the evening.
I was just thinking about it, George. What it really comes down to, I think, as much as anything else, we all gravitated towards each other and became lifelong friends, all of us, right?
Yeah.
But I think when you really think about it, and even the way you just described it, all those quartets had what they had special, and I think it's a lesson for everybody here, is that the courage to do it.
Yeah.
To not just talk about it or think it. We can all think about the crazy stuff and we can all laugh about the crazy stuff, but then to say, okay, and now let's do it. Let's actually go and do it.
Yeah.
And all those quartets had the courage of their convictions and the courage to say, we're going to do what we love and we don't care, and go out and make it happen.
No question about it. And, the segue to that, the trajectory from that was 1979. We were in Minneapolis. So you fast forward and to 1980, and we're both going to international, both quartets, and it's because of our conviction. It's because of the encouragement from, for lack of a better word, our coaches. They weren't just our coaches; they were our advisors, our mentors, our people. The Roaring '20s. You were heavily involved in the Big Apple and every aspect of, the cause and the thing that came down.
Right.
We both were at the International in Salt Lake City, Utah. The difference was we were eliminated in the first round. And Tom Gentle would not mind me saying this. Our chorus director, this is the first time that we didn't go to International. It's because Tom retired after he had won the gold medal with the girls. And he had won the gold medal with the guys. And he just said, my bursitis is bad, I'm out. So we did not compete in Salt Lake City because the Singing Buckeyes beat us in the district. But we sent 3 quartets. And that was the Bandwagon, the Roaring '20s, and the Cincinnati Kids. And we were eliminated after the first round. We come on out into the lobby, and our chorus director, Tom Gentle, is there. And he said, hey, how did we do? He goes, you were great, you were great. And Steve says, so do you think we made the 20? And Tom Gentle, who was a man of few words, he was the big guy. He's like, so did we make the 20? And he went, no. And Four Under Par, meanwhile, is completely ripping the auditorium with a town in old New Hampshire, and you're doing your encore set where you got, it was just brilliant. Everything was brilliant. And we're watching, we're pulling for you. There was that mutual thing. We weren't upset. We just said, look, we sucked. You didn't. And, that was amazing, amazing time to watch you guys fulfill your dream. And I think it put us on that trajectory to say, we've got to do it. We got to go next. We've got to do it.
And you immediately eclipsed us over the next couple of years. But it's the same thing. There was nothing but like pulling for you guys, wanting you guys to do even better, with all of it. And I believe it was just a question of you guys matured into what you were doing, and in our case, they got onto us.
You've had a few rule changes because of your stuff, and that's
we often created rule changes. Yeah, as you know, George. but yes.
So on the conversation of your rise from where you were to where you got, as somebody who is not at that level, whose quartet was scoring high 70s last time I checked, what is, if you had like one piece of advice you could give to anybody who's looking to get to there, any quartetter that's looking to go from where they are to where you got, what would that advice be?
This is very, very, you'll find it common in every group that finds their way, okay? And it starts with a Peter Nuschel, okay, looking at us. And in his eminent way from the 139th Street, every quartet coming out of the late 70s into the 80s, the 139 touched them in some way. The Roaring 20s touched us personally on a weekly basis,
Sure.
where they did what they did because they were who they were. And Peter looked at us one time and he goes, man, you guys are pretty smooth. And he said, but what's your bag? What's your bag? And we said, I don't know. He goes, look, everybody's out there wearing saddle shoes and knickers. What 400 par was? They were golf guys, right?
Yeah, so we had golf. We had the golf knickers. Yep.
We had our knickers, okay? And we got spanked a few times, okay? But the point was, he said, you can't just come on out there with some saddle shoes and a hat and think it's going to be, you have to be true to yourself. Who are you? And that's when we started figuring out every piece of music we got, every show we go to, when we went, our first show together was in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. And we walked in and we knew we had something special because at the Afterglow, we went to Four Corners and sang tags with everybody, and then came back as a unit and got on stage and did our Afterglow. And the point was, we found out what our bag was. And I will tell you, you need a mentor. You need somebody that could. Joe said that I was a father confessor for Signature. They did. They came to me and said, is this sane? Is this going to blow it? Is this going to do it?
Sure.
We found that in Don Gray. We found that in Don Claus. We call it the Don.
Yep.
And Don Gray would always monitor what we did. And just said, that's crazy, that's insane. And for him to say that, that means it was insane. Don Claus looked at us and he said, you know what? He said, this quartet, you put in a dime's worth of effort and you get $1 million return. Why don't you start reversing that? And he started saying, you have a lead singer that's got a gift from God. And it's serious. And he looked and he said, a lead bass match made in heaven.
And as we have a comment in the chat here that says, amen to Scott Brandon, definitely one of the best.
Yes, no question.
Yeah.
No question. We refer to him to this day as the gift. He was our gift. Randy Tenner, okay. Don Claus looked at him and said, what a pleasant guy. What a great, pleasant guy. Great smile. Then he comes over to me and he goes, and you are not well. And the point was, we had.
You are not well? That's what you got?
Yes, you are not well. Now you take that for what it is. Try and put that into some simulation.
Yeah, geez.
We found out that we could sing Shenandoah, or we could sing I'm Afraid of the Beautiful Girls, or we could sing In the Good Old Summertime by the Sea, or we could sing Weekend in New England. But we found our bag. Find out who you are, guys. Find out what your go-to is and what your default is. Find out what you are as human beings, so that what's authenticity? To go into the lobby, to go into the Afterglow, to go on the stage, come back and go with other and be the same. And look at you. That's integrity. That's authenticity. That's genuine. And that's what I think we found.
I like that. I'm the kind of guy who always has to, like, everything I do has to have a little bit of Zac in it. So hearing stuff like that always encourages me to be like, all right, cool. I'm at least kind of on the right path with it.
You know, you have to have yourself in it. And I think, you know, and the Cincinnati Kids were one of these quartets. You know, you could describe them. You know, a quartet could put it, an audience could put it into a couple of words and say, you know, exciting, youthful, energetic. You know, it wasn't hard to eventually know what their bag was. The same way that with Four in the Par, they would say that weird, twisted. I mean, and that was okay. We knew that's what we were, and that was fine, and that worked for us. And the same thing, we pursued that, and the same way that the kids pursued what they were. We used to laugh hysterically because when we would do shows together, we would laugh about the quality of followers. let's say the groupies, because George and the kids, you saw them even in that young, youthful, really good-looking matinee idol types. As they went on in their careers, we always say, oh, they're wearing their pink tuxedos again, right? And we never quite graduated from the lumpy, the lumpy +4s, in our dumpy in a nondescript manner. So all of the groupies after the show would be, flocking around the Cincinnati Kids, and our fans tended to be the pocket protector and pencil guy, with the tape on the glasses, and they were the ones who would say, hey, when in that fifth song, when you sang that new line, when you said, isn't that, oh, I really love, that was great.
I don't like that I related to that so much. I don't.
Oh man, I'll tell you what, if you were in that time and in that space, you could not help but just fall head over heels over what the 4 Under Par was doing. Paneling Madeline's home. Okay, and then we'll panel the cat. I mean, there were things that were just unbelievably creative, but the average man and woman got it. There you go.
Oh my God, he has it.
There it is. There it is.
That is the paneled cat.
That's the
Don't tell me why I had it near here on my desk. But
we did not set that up.
I did not.
Did not set it.
I like to believe that Joe just has a lot of props just around his computer area, so that just in case he can just pull one out.
Okay, and you know what Scott Brannon's favorite piece by 4 Under Par was? The censorship medley. It allows your brain to do all the dirty work. But that was the genius of Roger.
Get it?
Oh yeah, well, yeah. It was one of my favorites for that very reason too. George, and it's very modular. You could keep adding and subtracting songs as needed. I'm going to segue really quickly here.
Sure.
And we'll do this. George and I kind of chatted about this, and we said, well, we'll be really nice about it. But one of the shows I remember this one vividly. We were on a show in Chicago, and it was with the Chicagoland group.
It's called, Joe, the CABC show, one of the most prestigious in its day. It's the Chicago Area Barbershop Chapters. They all sponsored a show in January. And this was 17 chapters. So when you got invited on here, this was like, you knew you made the big time. And I've got trinkets, I've got props, that says, you sang on the CABC show.
Yeah, that theater held what, about 2,000 to 3,000 people, right?
Yeah, it was the Auditorium Theater, and it was done, and we'd stay at the nicest hotels downtown. The next morning before we left, we had a breakfast brunch at the yacht club across, and it was always frozen over because it was January. And 4 Under Par, Cincinnati Kids, and the Rapscallions. Their modus operandi was to have the current gold medalist. That was their goal every year, and they got it.
And that was the Rapscallions.
International medalist that happened to be the Cincinnati Kids that year. We were 5th, and they wanted a headliner quartet that could knock the socks off the auditorium. That was a 4 Under Par. Because sometimes you have medalists and gold medalists that aren't very as entertaining as they are quality singing in a contest setting. Well, that's when they got it all.
And you know what, George? That was one of those evenings when, like, the moon and the stars and everything aligned, so that I'm trying to remember whether we went first or you went first, but it was one or the other, and then we went second, and you went first and we went second.
Yeah.
And the kids were, just at the top. You couldn't be more at the top of your game. Just incredible. I think you were feeling the moment. You were feeling the size of that crowd and the energy that was there. And I know we were back there going, holy mackerel, we got to look at what we got to have to live up with. They've really planted a flag here. Yeah. And then we came out and we debuted 2 brand new pieces of music, including a brand new international medley, a couple of things that stood as long-term, really powerful things. And as I recall, just tore the audience apart also. So we had an incredibly great hit. And let's just say this, it was incredibly daunting for the Rapscallions. Here's your international champs, and this audience has already had an hour or a little more than an hour of incredible entertainment. So it really wasn't fair. It just wasn't fair. What happened?
I wouldn't want to do it.
No, and you know what? The ultimate, I mean, Jeff Oxley, one of the dearest friends, Smots, I mean, we were roommates. We had 3 or 4 apartments, but we'd all stay, Joe Conley and Scott and Ox and myself. I mean, we were always in there and pulling for each other. We would drive to the airport on Friday for our respective shows and go, so Jeff and Conley and myself. And we're backstage and we're watching this, okay? And Rapscallions sang like international champions.
They sang great. They sang great.
But the thing was, they had gotten their palates not only tested and not only warmed up, they got a show and a half from the kids and then the 4 under par. And also, mind you, they always had the current district champion chorus, which was always a medalist. At that time, it was Westtown, okay? So you had this great show going on. I wouldn't have wanted to be anybody else but the Cincinnati kids that night because we got to go on first.
Going first was always an advantage, right? Going first is an advantage in those kind of in those situations. That became so much true that certain quartets, like even the Boston Common, refused to go. They would not follow certain quartets. They probably did that with you guys. I know they did it with us with 4 under par. I think they did it with the kids also.
They did. And Boston Common, and you're speaking of our idols, all of us, 139, Bluegrass Student.
Barber Gods.
And when they came to us and said, Terry Clark, God rest his soul, what he said, yeah, well, we'll do the singing, you can do the yuck stuff, But then they came and they said, so we're going to go on first. And we're thinking, oh my gosh, how are you going to follow that? You can't. If you don't have your bag, if you try to beat the Boston Common or the 139 or the Bluegrass Student Union, you're not going to last very long. Mm-hmm. You better revert to who you are. And that's what the 4 under par did. That's what the kids would do. When in doubt, go back to your roots, go back to your bag.
And I think that's something that George and I have talked about on the show before. I point up because that's where he is. Is that whole, we've talked about comedy a lot on this show because I love comedy, and of course he sings comedy, and just that, like, if that's what you are, don't deny it. Just do it. It's fine. It's still entertaining and fun, and people are going to enjoy it.
Well, I mean, George could attest to this, having gotten to know 4 under par. It wasn't even a conscious decision with us. It just was.
Sure.
It just was.
Yeah, we just thought that's how you did it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so great, where you're able to just take what you know and take what you've been given, and then just process and just go with it, and know that. I mean, I'm serious about it. One of the greatest things that enjoyment for me was listening to Scott Brannon sing Shenandoah at an Afterglow. And this is after we'd done a couple crazy numbers, and he would do the Southern Gateway rendition of Shenandoah. And it's like, but it was us singing it. It wasn't someone else.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, but again, Scott was a force of nature as a lead singer, and anyway, he was must see. He was must see, like these must see kind of guys. The people that we would go into the wings or go out to watch. Mm-hmm. Because you had to. You just had to.
Yeah.
Well,
and please know that every time when I mention Bob Muka or I mention Don Gray, the Roaring Twenties, Gene Barford had so much of input on Scott, had so much of a positive. Scott would just hang on her every word, and the quartet did as well. And so we were so blessed. Joe Conley will say this. He'll go, I got to sit in on a session with the Roaring Twenties, for X amount of years, every X amount of nights. And he goes, shame on me if I didn't pick something up. Shame on me. And we learned this. We took it all in, and we just said, shame on me if I can't give you something, if I can't give more than I receive.
And again, coming from New York, yes, George, with Big Apple and everything else, but our heroes in 4 under par were the Roaring Twenties. Mm-hmm. Because the Roaring Twenties were doing the closest to our style of songs, witty, funny, energetic stuff. I saw Ron Riegler before he passed, and that, for me, that he was the ultimate performer on stage. I mean, I wanted to be Ron Riegler on stage, you know?
Yeah. And you know, and those are the kind of things that when you watch these performers and you watch these groups and these entities, this, Zach, going back to your question about what does it take?
Yeah.
I'm going to be real candid with you. A lot of people will get upset about this. There is not a dime's worth of difference in the talent from somebody who's 25th and 5th in the world. There's a focus difference.
Yep.
Talent is the lead. You got to be great to get to international these days. You have to be a very good singer, a unit, and the whole 10 yards, A level, really assured that you're going to international. But where's the focus? What's your bag? What do you do? And there is no doubt. You watched 4 Under Par, you knew exactly. And that's not to say that they couldn't do, if they had to straighten it up and straighten up and fly right, they couldn't do it.
Sure.
So could, you know, but the Roaring Twenties, when you would listen to Jerry Kelly sit back and sing How Are Things in Glockamora, or You'll Never Know If You Don't Know Now. Okay. You watch that guy, and then they'll come back with Anna from Indiana, which we stole. Okay?
Great. Good.
Nothing we did that we didn't rip off somebody, pilferage, take, you know, and just make it your own.
Yeah, definitely. And I find that funny too. I'm the kind of guy who kind of jumps around different art forms. I like comedy, and I've also been like a magician for a little bit. We don't have to talk about it. But one of the cool things that's the difference between those two things is that in the comedy world, you steal someone else's joke, and that's like the worst thing ever. In the world of magic, you steal someone else's trick, and they're like, no, let me teach you how to do it better. And I think that's a cool thing about barbershop too, is that we're very much the latter of that. It's very much this is a thing that we did. Oh, you like it? Try it out. See what you can do with it. I like that a lot. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, you know what, and it really is true in the world of comedy, but it's true almost in almost all of this music, is that there might not be a new joke. All there is you being told by somebody else. It's the jokester change. You know, the song might be the same, and the style might be somewhat the same, but who's delivering it changes. So that's why it's so important to be yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of like when my dad's trying to talk me into something, and I'm against it, and then Jeff says the same thing, and I go, you know, that's a good point, and then I do it.
Yeah. Well, Kenny Hatton used to say that to us all the time. He'll say, and now I'm going to say something you've heard about 50,000 times. The only question you have on the table is, are you going to listen this time? Are you going to take this for a bit? He's the guy that put in and did some things, and we take it and run with it. We stole a lot of stuff from the bluegrass, you know, and it's like, who didn't? Look at Stormfront. I mean, look what they did, which is really, who didn't put in that Jukebox Saturday Night? It was a cassette back then. Who didn't put in Jukebox Saturday Night and process and do and just want to own it in every car trip that they were taking? But we did it with Common, we did it with the 20s, we did it with the bluegrass, you know, and we became our own. And that's what you got to do. People have said, don't tell me what I have to do. Well, you don't have to do anything. I mean, if you're going to really enjoy this hobby, you got to know who you are. I am who I am.
You see the echoes, you see the DNA of all these influential groups in what we see as judges, right, George, when we go around. You know, it's all there, and it's at all levels, you know, and at the top levels, then people are able to take it and make it more their own. But that DNA is still the DNA.
Yeah, it's so true. And boy, you want to see, I mean, go listen to Let's Go, Joe. Let's Go, Joe. When you're holding that note, you know, I mean, those are things that stick in your head forever. Why? Because you did it. You just did it. You transcended.
Well,
so that's geezer time.
Yeah. Before we wrap, Joe or George, whichever one you are, real quick, tell me about this. Tell me about this real quick. This is a book called Roadmap to Success, and I see your picture down there at the bottom. Tell people out there about that real quick.
Well, you know, I've been blessed, you know, with mentors and blessed with introductions to folks that have impacted my life. I mean, Dr. Stephen Covey, who is, once again, God bless his soul. really transformed. Ken Blanchard, these people, Blanchard wrote the 1 Minute Manager. He wrote a lot of great things. Who Moved My Cheese? Stephen Covey impacted my life with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that was 1989 going into the 90s. And it really transformed me. This roadmap to success, okay, it really just takes, what it is when people say, what do you need to do to be successful? The successful, is it money? Well, if that's what it takes for you, yes, but you don't have to have success with an equal sign and dollar figure there. There are so many other things. There are great minds in this book. I have one chapter, and I'm blessed to be in there with Blanchard and with Covey and 10 other really, really sharp people. So take it. I've got the power model in there, the power acronym, which I use in barbershop at Harmony University. And it's really, that is something that I take and I use in all walks of my life.
Sure.
We're transferring it from CD. We're transferring it onto a more hip media.
Sure.
Are you going to H-Track?
Yeah, we're going to move to Beta.
Good.
Beta and H-Track.
Good. And where can I get it on cassette? Is that a...
No, you know what? Never came out on cassette.
Huh, interesting.
We passed that one right to CD. So. but I can get Will Rodriguez, who is a techno great friend of mine, the only man ever to go from 2 silver medals singing tenor to winning the gold medal consecutively as a baritone. Will is helping me work with this to be able to make it marketable and to be able to really put it into the next millennium, so to speak. So there's more to follow on that, and I'll be able to, obviously you can reach me at my email for right now, but there'll be a full-fledged website that's updated with the roadmap to success and the power acronym.
That's great. We will keep everybody updated on that. George, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I've had a blast. I don't want to speak for Joe, but I've had a blast.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
For me, it's just more of the same. No, this what it feels like is like it always feels like. When we're doing this, it's just a couple of guys talking, and it floods back all those great feelings, and just to have that little hit of feeling like that, it's like being a junkie for it. So I love it, and and George mentioned it already. The kind of bond that you create over that time, it's always you can't celebrate it enough, and so it's just great to spend some time, George, and to do that, and hopefully not bore the audience to tears while we do our
Sure.
old geezer stuff.
You got it. Well, I'm really flattered, honored, and it is a blast for me and Joe. I mean that when I say we are friends for life, and that's a really great thing. That's a good thing. Thank you, Zach. You are a chip off the old block. You are the best. You are doing the right thing. And
Appreciate
I'm
you.
really proud to see what you're doing.
Listen, he's the straw that stirs the drink here.
There you go. God bless the Southern Gateway Chorus. God bless everything that goes on with you from here to eternity.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thanks. Thank you, George. And again, thank you for taking the time. It was just a pleasure.
And before we call it a night, for those of you out there who are not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a like on this video if you liked it. Hit that notification bell if you want to see everything else we're doing. And on behalf of the Southern Gateway Chorus, I am Zach Coleman here with my co-host.
And I'm Joe Hunter.
And we hope you guys have a great week.